Black Mage spells are a hallmark of the Final Fantasy series. In many of the games, it takes minutes to turn an enemy into a snow cone, but sometimes getting ice is pure suffering. So in this video, I'm going to cast ice in every Final Fantasy. I have to actually cast the spell, not my allies, and ice elemental substitutes like Ice Strike won't fulfill the brief. And finally, keep in mind that I'm not a speedrunner, so this is more of a casual attempt. So let's lower the thermostat to a sensible negative 74 degrees and get icy. In the OG, ice isn't actually one of the first spells available. The Magic Store only has fire and thunder available, which is disappointing. But after rescuing the king's daughter from this icy edgelord, he fixes the bridge for us, which yields a 5-minute Star Wars-style text scroller and opens the path northeast to Pravoka. There, we're finally able to purchase the ice spell, head to the woods, and freeze some horsies with Jorn in just a smidge over 20 minutes. Final Fantasy II is a bit kinder. After watching our hometown get roasted and getting wrecked by some knights, we finally gain the freedom to walk around and do shit. I head immediately to the Magic Store to grab the Blizzard Tome, and Elsa refrigerates some bugs. Final Fantasy III was not so fun in my Fast Fire and Thunder videos, and by the way, I'll link those in the Discridly-Do if you want to watch them after. But fortunately, ice is a different story. We start out the game with no spells, which is awful, and no job, which is great. But after beating the first boss, the land turtle with some Antarctic winds, the Black Mage class becomes available. A hidden room in the castle has the Blizzard spell, so I head out to the forest and cast... Oh my god, he doesn't have any spells. Yeah, I f***ed up. So I redo the entire challenge, remember to change my job and sleep in the inn, and cast ice in just over 9 minutes. In Final Fantasy IV, for the first time, we don't have to buy spells. And ironically, at the outset of the game, the protagonist kills a bunch of Mysidian mages. It would have been much faster to just team up with them and let them cast ice. But after that, it's just a matter of progressing the plot to claim our prize. We head out on our first mission to deliver a bomb ring to the Summoner Village. And that ring is definitely not a weapon of mass destruction. But surprise, the bomb ring is a weapon of mass destruction, and surprise, killing that dragon resulted in the death of its summoner, and surprise, her daughter Rydia is angry. I hate you! You killed my moms! After she summons a loincloth-clad titan to destroy us, we find her in the Desert's Inn, and she becomes our party's Black Mage. And after she gains a few levels, she learns Blizzard, which we cast. Final Fantasy V is another job-based game, and I start out with no jobs, which again, is nice, because I literally wish I didn't have one. So we take Schwartz on the adventure of a lifetime, save Lena from some goblins, and ride our chocobo northward. And by the way, let me know if you'd be interested in watching me touch a chocobo in every Final Fantasy game, because that sounds fun. We ride a stolen boat northward to our first palace and don't buy a boat, stealing one is much better, and after plucking this pigeon, we need a way to preserve him. Fortunately, the crystal in the next room gives us the Black Mage job, and the ice spell is in a city to the west. So we buy the spell, head to the overworld, and freeze dry some squirrels. And Aurora, why are you screaming? It's not food time right now. My cat is so dumb. Come here, come here. She's so stupid. After 5 relatively easy challenges, Final Fantasy VI is where the suffering truly starts. The first character available to us, Terra, doesn't have access to ice. She can only learn fire spells. I have to play until I obtain the Mage Knight Celis, who is the first character to have access to ice magic. The game is initially pretty linear. However, around an hour and 15 minutes in, the party is divided and the game splits into 3 paths. Locke's story is the one we want to follow. He infiltrates the city of South Figaro and ultimately enters the Empire's base of operations. There, he's able to rescue Celis, whom we name Ice Spice, and by heading into the storage room and winding a clock, we can immediately enter into a battle and chill out with some Dobermans. I asked my friend Jamsack to help with this one, so take it away, Jam.
Final Fantasy VII begins up in space, and yes, space is cold, but it ain't no ice spell, so it does not count. After this, we're introduced to our protagonist, Cloud, who makes sure to steal a potion from this guy because much like the ice spell, we are very cold-hearted. We are soon thrust into a battle with 2 random soldiers, and we use the ice spell, finishing the run in very, very little time.
Thank you, Jam. I also decided to give this one a try, and with the speed up function, I definitely beat his time. And I know it's not a contest, but I won. I won. You have been... Did you just fart? My cat just farted when I picked her up. I am so angry at you, but I love you. Okay, go back to your seat. After a brief sword fight and naming the protagonist Icy Wiener, we dash out of town and acquire the GF's Elekid and Freeze Pop. To cast magic in this game, we have to draw the spell from enemies and then use the magic command. So I draw an ice spell from a... we draw an ice spell from a goddamn Buell and cast it. The only character in Final Fantasy IX who can cast ice spells is the little black mage boy Vivi. Unfortunately though, once we get control of him and name him Vice V, he only has access to fire spells. So after getting shot with a huge cannon and captured by a carnivorous plant, I let the princess die and have to start over. Which is fun! Don't I look like I'm having fun? But fortunately, I'm slightly less of an idiot the second time around. Just slightly. Garnet survives and we fight the prison cage with Vice V inside. And here's where I'm able to save some time. The prison cage has the leather wrist armor, and by stealing it and equipping this to Vice V, he gets access to the ice spell, and he's able to icify this overgrown Doberman. This game is where the pain begins, because it has the bane of all speedruns, unskippable cutscenes. Nonetheless, I name our protagonist Tistis, and I accept that I'm about to suffer. Fortunately, the route to ice is fairly linear. We fight this dude with giant Tantacles, we throw grenades at that dude with giant Tantacles, and we gain access to a gorgeous and talented mage, and also Lulu. And once the blue flan rears its ugly head, we disobey the tutorial and give this flan freezer burn. And this was the end of day 1 of this challenge. 10 games down and a bajillion to go. Since I already had the disc inserted, I decided to tackle Final Fantasy X-2 next. The easiest way to cast Blizzard is to get the Black Mage Dress Sphere, which immediately gives access to all 4 elemental spells. But after I cast it, I realized there's a faster way, because in the very first dungeon, there's a hidden chest with a white ring. And this ring gives immediate access to the Blizzard spell, saving me about 15 minutes over the previous attempt. I didn't do this one. Sorry, I don't play MMOs. This one took a while. I'm playing on the Zodiac edition, which features a job system, so I'm able to unlock my first job, Black Mage, about 7 minutes in. But unfortunately, just as in real life, getting a job is not enough. You also have to both unlock the license for the spell you plan to cast using license points. And there's more, because you also have to purchase the spell, and you cannot buy the Blizzard spell anywhere in Rabanastre. But there is one place that you can buy Blizzard. Sadly, it's inaccessible until you beat up this adorable cactus, head out through Southgate, and talk to this crop-topped youngster about the Shadowstone. Thus, you gain access to the aptly named Wester Sand. But I accidentally aggro a couple of lizard dudes, and I die. But on the second try, I decide to make Vaughn a warrior instead of a black mage, which will make battles go a lot more quickly. And south of Rabanastre, I also gain access to Pinello, whom I immediately give the black mage job to, and I unlock the license for Blizzard. So I chat with the kid, head west to this little village here, and buy the Blizzard spell. So by switching my controlled character to Pinello, I can cast the spell and end this challenge in just over 20 minutes. Final Fantasy XIII, or as I like to call it, Hot Dog Down a Hallway Simulator Deluxe, was straightforward, linear, and annoying, because you start the game without access to magic. After fighting Anima, though, you become a Lassie, and the Crystarium opens, and the Ravager class, the only class that can cast magic, becomes available. But unfortunately, we only have direct access to lightning initially. The person, not the spell, although she only has the lightning spell. How creative. But after enjoying our beautiful cold hallway for a while, we finally are forced to control Snow, and he immediately casts Blizzard. I had some help for this one from Wrath Games, so I'll let them handle this one.
Final Fantasy XIV is a pretty easy one, and possibly the fastest on the list. We make our little guy, force him to be a thaumaturge like good parents would, dub him Frosty Fellow, and send him off into the world. But not before our obligatory queue times to get into the game. Skipping a few intro cutscenes, we actually have Blizzard unlocked from the very beginning, we just have to get out of the city to use it. Stopping by to say hello to Momodi, we grab the next main story quest, ignore it completely, sprint out of the city gates, and help some nearby star marmots cool off in the desert heat. We're sitting pretty at 2 minutes and 27 seconds. I'm going home now, bye.
Thank you, Wrath. In Final Fantasy 15, we have to craft our magic. Fortunately though, ice magic is the first type of magic we're able to craft. We just have to chat with Cindy aka Boobs McGee and get the tutorial mission first. By slashing some scorpions, we can capture some ice energy and then immediately craft blizzard magic. So all that's left to do is find some enemies and ice them. And there's only one mainline game left, Final Fantasy 16. And while that's an incredibly painful challenge, I elected to play some spin-offs first. And if you're enjoying this video so far and you love what I make, do me a favor and check to make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And if you're obsessed, consider paying $5 a month to become a channel member for early access. And thank you to my current channel members for supporting my channel. World of Final Fantasy is a Pokemon clone with a bit less plot. Your initial fox monster has fire, but ice and thunder are a bit harder to acquire. You have to fight a battle with Shiva, which is actually pretty damn hard. But once you win, Shiva yields the Kablizz monster. Unfortunately though, it doesn't start with enough ability points to learn Blizzard right away. So I fight some monsters, gain 1 level, learn Blizzard, and freeze some rocks. I next wanted to tackle the 3 Tactics games. These games all have job systems, meaning I need a black mage to cast the ice spell. But in Final Fantasy Tactics, this is just a little bit complicated, because in the first battle, I have 2 chemists and 3 squires, and I need just 1 chemist at level 2 to open the black mage class. Unfortunately, my first chemist dies pretty early in the battle, but I'm able to grind up the second reasonably quickly by using items and attacking both enemies and allies. So I finish up the battle, switch my chemist to the black mage class, and cast ice ASAP in the next battle. Final Fantasy Tactics Advance is a bit more simple. After a snowball fight, the very first Moogle you get in the game has Blizzard. Unfortunately, he's not controllable in the first real fight of the game, but after naming him Icy Nuts, I head to the town of Sperm and pick up the herb picking quest. So I head to the Jizza Plains and cast Blizzard on a fairy and a goblin. Final Fantasy Tactics 8-2 has streamlined the ice process even more. The tutorial battle in this game features a controllable black mage who already knows ice. However, this game forces you to cast fire first. But once I cycle through the turns again, the mage is free to freeze this bird brain, getting us the win in just under 7 minutes. But the next game I played was not so simple. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest requires that you acquire each spell from a chest to cast it. Unfortunately though, there are 2 full dungeons of enemies before this spell becomes available. I fight through the Earth Temple, beating Flamerous Rex on the first try, and then pick up Phoebe. And funny story, allies' resistances are super messed up in this game. After getting a new ally, you have to reset the game to reset all the characters' resistances, and I don't do that, meaning that Phoebe now has no resistance to water magic, which makes the Ice Golem fight a lot harder. But still, I'm able to beat him on the very first try because I'm a Giga Chad gamer! So I escape the Ice Temple, head to Focus Tower, grab the Blizzard spell, and cast it about 30 seconds later. The next game is one that I had never played before this challenge, Final Fantasy XII Revenant Wings. It's an old DS game that's a sequel to Final Fantasy XII, and to get Blizzard, you basically have to play through to Chapter 3, equip the Blizzaga spell since Blizzard is just a regular attack for the mage character, and cast it. And then I move on to another new game, Final Fantasy Type 0. This game is... okay, never mind, we're good. Crisis Core is next, and we cast Blizzaga in under a minute. But I actually managed to improve that time to 24 seconds once I realized that Zack starts with the Blizzaga spell. Final Fantasy 13-2 is just a matter of crying about lightning being missing and fighting through a tutorial battle, and then we get access to the Crystarium. Once we do that, it's just a matter of grinding out Crystarium points to acquire Blizzard, and the deed is done. But Lightning does eventually return in the aptly named Lightning Returns, and she brings ice with her from the start, leading to another very fast challenge clear. And this brings us to the final game in the challenge. Getting new spells in Final Fantasy XVI is a chore. You get them by defeating bosses. Basically, every big boss you defeat gets you another spell, and unfortunately, you get ice pretty close to the end of the game. Now, the world record for this game at the time of my video is just under 7 hours, so my hope was that maybe I could do it in 10, and my hope did not materialize into anything good. I gained my first new spell, Wind, around the 2-hour mark. Having Wind does speed up the game markedly. It allows you to stagger enemies much more easily. And then the next spell, Thunder, comes about 2.5 hours later, and I acquire Earth around the 8-hour mark. And as you can probably tell, I definitely underestimated how much time this would take. Fortunately, the pacing speeds up from here, particularly since I can skip every single cutscene in the game, of which there are a bajillion. But one thing I can't skip is the battle with Bahamut. You literally fly into space to fight off a giant holy dragon. This happens around the 10-hour mark, so I'm definitely not finishing anytime soon. But let me just say, while the action-based combat in this game is not my favorite, the visuals are incredible. They've created a gorgeous hellscape of a world with enemies that have enormous scale. But the game, along with many of its strongest abilities, just feels like an extended cutscene itself. The cinematic battles with all the super bosses feel needlessly drawn out. In particular, the battle with Bahamut took about a half hour to complete, which for one boss battle feels excessively long. Anyway, once I defeat Bahamut, I fight my way through the Sleipnir battles, destroy some pirates, and finally acquire the ice spell, casting it just under the 12-hour mark. Here's the final spreadsheet of how long each game took, and click this playlist to watch more of my Final Fantasy challenges. Bye.